Alright, so here we go again. Lincoln project. 2010 Lincoln MKT. This is electronic mechanic. I've been having a vibration in the drivetrain when you get on the throttle and take off from a stop. And I was thinking it was a lot of the front suspension. But I replaced tie rod or the sway bar end links and checked the suspension for loose parts, and all that seemed okay. So I'm like, I wonder, it only does it under heavy acceleration. So I'm like, you know what? The motor mounts are probably original. Car has 260,000 miles. Why don't I just change out the motor mounts? So I went ahead and just ordered them off of Rock Auto before I even checked them. So here I am replacing the motor mounts. To get to the transmission side motor mount, you have to remove your battery. You got to remove the battery tray, and to make it easier on yourself, remove the air box and the air tube. It just opens it up, and this stuff just bolts in place very simply and pops into place. But if you come over here, this is the transmission side mount. I just took the bracket off. And if you look at that. That thing is completely, look, I can pull it out. And look, it's been rubbing metal against metal. That has been my vibration noise this whole time. I can't believe it. But that was a pretty good diagnosis on my part. I just said, you know what, motor mounts are probably shot, so I ordered them. And come to find out, that's it. But this is fairly easy. You just have an 18 millimeter through bolt here, and then these are 15 millimeter, these nuts, and then the two bolts that go here are a bit smaller. What are they? They're 13s, I believe. Yeah, they're 13s. But I'm looking at this, I think there's bolts down on this front side here, which are going to be fun to get to. So I'm going to pull them out and go from there. Okay, so this lower bolt is a little bit of a pain in the butt on this side mount. There it is. It's right there, and I think there's another one. Yeah, there's another one on the back side. I'm using a 13 millimeter ratchet wrench because it's a tight spot. So just take your time and work it out of there. There's really no easy way to get it. Of course, they're held in with blue Loctite, so they don't just spin out freely. So I'm gonna try this 13 millimeter on this ratchet. Get this back one. I have the transmission supported by a floor jack, and I did lower it down after undoing the motor mount, and it gave you a couple inches of room, but there's still nothing easy about this. It is a bad spot. I don't know why they decided to put bolts on the side here, but they did. And I just got done driving home from work, so this transmission is about 1,000,000 degrees. So every time I touch the side of the case with my hand, it burns the shit out of me. But that's what we do. It's coming. Slowly but surely. I can only get like a quarter turn at a time. And it's got Loctite on it, so every turn is hard. Whew. Take some breaks. Get a drink of water. I almost forgot to record this. I always do this. I start a project and I forget to turn the camera on, and luckily I'm starting to remember more often. It's kind of it's kind of hard to forget now that I have like 2 cameras sitting on tripods in the garage at all times. So I just walk in, I'm like, oh look, there's a tripod, I better start the camera. But if I didn't have tripods with cameras sitting around, I would forget. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Well, you see my struggle. We're just going to continue to struggle. I would almost rather the motor fall out on the highway than anybody put this much Loctite on a bolt. Because at least, there goes the wrench, because at least if the motor falls out on the highway, your insurance will give you a new one. Yeah, look at that. Loctite the whole length of the threads. Bastards. Alright, now this will come out. I wanted to show this to you. The whole center section is gone. It's completely disintegrated, and the metal was starting to rub the lower part of the mount. As you can see, it was metal against metal. That was what all my noise was. Motor mounts. Alright, here we go. Got the new motor mount from rockauto.com. This is the Anchor brand motor mount. It is the lesser expensive one. And then here's the factory one, which I already showed you. This is tore out. They look very, very similar, almost identical. So we're gonna see how well it fits. All right. Millimeters. There's 4 13mm bolts that hold this thing to the unibody. I got the bottom 2 13s tight. Now I'm just going to run these 2 top ones down. Luckily you can get on them with an impact. I absolutely hate when you can't get on them with an impact. Now this bracket goes back on. It has an alignment bolt in the back corner that's beveled, so it aligns it. But it basically sits on top of the transmission and goes around it. You need to lift. You have to lift these wires up out of the way. It kind of fits down over top of it. Something like that. Now I gotta jack the tranny back up. Now, this bracket should must be bound up a little bit. You gotta move the engine around a little bit. Little wiggle job. Alright, now this special bolt here that has this bevel, that goes in this farthest back hole here, and that's what aligns the bracket. So you want to make sure that you tighten that one first. I think it's a 13, just like the rest. It's a 13 like these other ones, but then these other nuts are bigger. So that's your alignment bolt, so you can go ahead and run it all the way down. And then you have these lock nuts that go on these other bolts. With this harness up, they just thread onto these bolts. One here, and then there's another one back there. And these are 15s, I believe. Yes, these nuts are 15s. So you need a 13, a 15, and an 18 to replace this motor mount. Then you're going to jack up your tranny again until your bolt hole lines up. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but basically you're lining up this hole here with the hole that goes through, and put your bolt in. Your big 18mm bolt. It will just, if you have it lined up right, it should just slide right in. You might have to raise and lower your jack a little bit, but it should slide all the way through. Now there's a captured nut on the back side, but it falls off. It doesn't stay put. But it does have a little bar on it that keeps it from spinning on you, so you don't have to hold it. Here's the nut that goes on the back side of the long bolt that goes through the mount. It's got a tab on it that keeps it from spinning on you, but it doesn't stay put. It will fall off. Now you take your 18mm, put it on this bolt, make sure your nut's in place. Once you got it tight, you're done. Put your battery back in, your air box, that motor mount's complete. I can't wait to drive this thing. Alright, your battery box goes back in, and it goes, you gotta kind of shove it in here between all these wires. Kind of have to nail it in here. The battery cables, for some reason, have to go all the way around the damn thing. I don't know why. Alright. Once you get it sitting down, battery box actually bolts into the top of the motor mount. And back in the fender. And they are a 13mm. So once you're sure all your wires aren't being pinched and caught and destroyed, you can tighten this up. Then you want to make sure you put all your little mounting tabs for your cables back in. All the silly places they go. But in the meantime, I'm gonna throw this battery back in. Alright, put the battery back in. Put the battery back in the correct way. You get your stupid rubber boot on the right side. And you can put your terminals back on here. Get them tightened down. 8mm. Put your battery tie down on. Put the 10mm nuts back on. I don't know where the other one went. It's probably on the floor. That's where everything else goes. You can put your lower box back in here. It sits down into 2 rubber mounts. Take this out of the way. And then there's 2 bolts that go in there. The 2 bolts that go and hold the air duct and are 8mm, same as the battery post. Just snug them up. This dumb little cover back on. The air box is in. Now we can put the intake tube and the top of the box back in. Make sure you get it all the way on. Grab your intake, or your top of your intake box. Slide it in there. Get it in place. Put your filter in. Lock the lid down. Your evap breather. Your block ventilation evap, not evap. This is your evap. Take your 5/16 hose driver. Make sure the rubber hose is seated. Snug it up. Same thing back here at the throttle body. Make sure it's seated and properly aligned. Tighten it up. Then, do not forget to plug in your mass airflow sensor. Now we'll go down here on the floor and see if we can find this other 10mm nut. On the floor is where it was. Found it with my handy dandy reach magnet. Put it on. Snug them down so the battery doesn't move, and you're done. The passenger side one is a hydraulic mount, and I also ordered it from Rock Auto. That's the part number from Anchor, made in China. But for 40 bucks, I'm not going to complain. And that's what it looks like. I'm just going to look at it, compare it, and make sure it's similar. Yeah, it's pretty similar. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take the whole thing out and transfer the bracket over to the bottom of it. But first I'm going to support the engine with a jack. These cars have cast aluminum oil pans. And the transmission case is cast aluminum as well. So you got to be careful when you're jacking underneath it. Put a block of wood on top of the jack so you don't ruin anything. Now, I'm hoping that Ford did us a favor and used all the same size bolts as they did on the other side. And it looks like they may have, but there's some extras thrown in there. 13. Alright, so I'm going to bring you in here real quick. Alright, so on the top there's this little metal bracket here, right here. So you're going to take out this bolt, and that nut and that little metal bracket will come off. And then you have that bolt, and then there's two bolts here. Well, they're actually nuts. Then you have that bolt there, and then in the back here there's another bolt on the other side of that bracket behind that hose. Believe me, it's there. But you take those out. We're going to try a cam on top of the motor here so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. I don't even know. Well, I guess that keeps that mount from wanting to torque. I was gonna say, I don't even know what that's there for. Isn't that ridiculous? They just do stuff sometimes for no reason. Those two bolts were 13mm. These two down here are 18s, which are the same as the other side. So I'm gonna zip them out first, if I can. Not happening with that one. So we bring out Papa. When baby won't get it, we bring out Papa. Oh, look, buggered up threads. Just what I like to see. Not. Alright, looks like there's actually two bolts in the back here. One there, and then watch this one. Watch this one be a different size. Actually, it's not a different size. They do that crap all the time. They'll put 3 different size bolts in one bracket, and it drives me insane. And as I'm sure you guys saw, the whole motor is loose now from the frame. As you can see. So now we just need to take out those 15s. We'll go back to baby. Nobody puts baby in a corner. They're 15s. I grabbed the 16mm socket. Is it still recording? Yeah. Alright. Now it looks like we're gonna have to move some stuff out the way. I think I'm gonna have to undo that ground. Undo this ground wire here. Get it out the way. And then, what is this? This coolant line here is it's your vapor line. Still under a little bit of pressure because the engine's still hot. Take that off. This AC line's going to be in the way probably. Move this electrical. But I think I might be able to get it out of here. I'm hoping. Try lowering the engine a little bit. Maybe raising it. Power steering thing is in the way. Damn. Problem is these AC lines, man. They just don't move enough. I think I'm getting it. Getting it back in there. It's definitely gonna be fun. Well, I still ain't got it out yet. Gotta undo this fuel line from this rail. So, ow! That double bolt was hot as hell. And it's also gone. That way that fuel line can move. God almighty. Alright, so as you can see on the bottom of this, there's one bolt that connects it to this mount. And that's one of the reasons why you have to take them out together, because you cannot get to this bolt with it in the car. And it's a 15. Big Daddy don't have a problem. See this oil? That's hydraulic oil. This mount is actually starting to leak its hydraulic fluid. The new mount goes just right back on there, just the way it was. Alright, so I mounted the thing back to the bracket. Got it back down in here. Now I'm just trying to force it into its home. Back down on these bolts. There we go. Alright. I'm gonna put these four nuts on here and snug them up. And get the engine side of it mounted. And then I'll lower the jack down, and then it will sit on this bracket on the fender. And then I can line them bolts up. Guess I might as well put this on as well. That'll help align it. Try to get you a view in here. This little bastard's got more power than you think it does. Alright, now that this side of the mount's secure, we can lower it down. And just make sure everything's out from under it. They're not going to pinch anything. So what I'm going to do here, turn myself into the Tin Man. Put a little bit of anti-seize on these threads. Just in case I have to do this again. Get them all started before you tighten them down. Straighten out the bracket. Snug her down. That bolt's tight. Then you can put all this stuff back where it belongs. Put your coolant hose back on. Put the clamp back on. I will have to find the bolt for that. Put this ground wire back on. on top of this mount, there's whatever this is. 8mm bolt. The only thing I can think is this is some kind of like harmonic, like takes vibration, some kind of like harmonic vibration reducer. That new mount actually has the bolt holes for it, so I'm going to transfer it over. And all it feels like is it just feels like a big heavy weight is really all it feels like. But we'll transfer it over. Move on with our life. That's it. You can lower down your jack if it already isn't. And we are done. We are done with replacing the 2 upper motor mounts on this car. That's the motor mount video I'm doing. So this is Electronic Mechanic. If you like these videos and you want me to keep making more, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. And comment, ask me questions.